for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 364 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeoffLambert77. We're here every Friday night on the Going for Two Live podcast network. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. We're on our own website now, goingfor2.live, and, of course, syndicated in all major podcast networks. If you are on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. That really helps us out with our algorithm. And apparently now Twitter is now working for us as well. We're getting our Twitter views in finally. I don't think
there we go.
You can't comment quite yet, but at least you can tune in and watch the show. Comments, I think, are supposed to be fixed here pretty soon. So hopefully the comments on Twitter will finally work. But if you want to comment and you want to join us, go find us over on YouTube. Of course, I'm here with my co-host, as always, Mr. Tim Strobel. You can follow him on Twitter at Keto DFS. What's up, Tim?
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be back. Sorry you had to call in sick last week, but we're back for the fans. Are you feeling better this week, Geoff?
Yeah, I'm feeling much better. I still got the runny nose and all that, but I'm not coughing and I don't got the sore throat. I don't got all that stuff, so definitely feeling much better. I hated missing last week, but it happens sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of sick, this guy he's going to be on the show tonight. Is getting over sickness himself. He had a fever and the whole nine. Still going to be struggling a little bit tonight, but he's a soldier. Gerson, what's up, man?
What's up? Yeah, I mean, it's just fever sucks, but I apologize in advance if I cough, if I sniffle, if I start sweating on my armpit or everywhere. It's just going to be a mess today, guys, but I had to tune in. I think this is going to be probably the last time I'm beyond this year, right? I mean, you guys are pretty much done.
Only a few shows left, yep.
He shows up for the important shows, the Halloween show and the Christmas show.
Absolutely.
We're good.
Absolutely.
Good. Always good to have you, G.
Yeah, good stuff. One thing I will say before we get to the good and bad of the week, it was interesting last week. So I was down and out pretty much the whole entire week, right? So typically I have my routine where I got to write my article for Fantasy Pros. I do my prep for this show. So I'm doing a lot of my DFS stuff throughout the week. And then last week, because I did absolutely no prep whatsoever, I showed up on Saturday night to try to set my lineups, and I kind of felt like some of our listeners might feel. I was completely lost. I didn't know who to play or nothing. I was so lost. I went to Tim's thread on the Facebook page and started doing my research on Saturday night. But I was like, man, why is Ezekiel Elliott the highest on running back? I was so lost. So it kind of gives me a little bit of pride in the sense that we can bring this sort of research information to the listeners out there to help them out. Because, man, I was completely lost. If I wasn't paying attention like I normally do, I didn't know what I was doing. So just want to quickly shout that out. All right, let's go ahead and open up with the rewind.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
All right, as always, we'll kick it off here with one good, one bad. Tim, give us your two here.
Yeah, my one good last week was David Njoku. I played Njoku in cash. He ended up only being like 10% owned in cash. But to me, he was an absolute smash spot. So he really carried me. I won our little roundtable league for that. So that was awesome. And then my one bad was Ezekiel Elliott. Like you just said, man, he definitely did not work out for me last week. But the good thing is that the build got me onto Njoku, and that's what really mattered. So
yeah, good stuff.
It was a real good week for me, man.
Gerson, I know you're not playing too much DFS these days, but you are doing prize picks a lot. What was your one good, one bad last week?
So my one good, I don't know if you guys seen, but on Prize Pick they had like demons and goblins or something like that. And I just like seeing the prize pick props and like props everywhere about CMC 1.5 touchdown made me think CMC is gonna have a monster day. And well, he did. I mean, he basically broke the slate last week. I mean, I think he got over 46 normal points. I don't know what that is, a DraftKings point. I'm pretty sure it was over 50 probably.
It was 44.7.
44.7.
Okay. So he broke the slate. My one bad was I was overloaded on the Buffalo. Well, Tim will roast me. Buffalo Dallas game. So yeah, I mean, I was just a little bit overloaded on it. I love game environments like that, and I think we have another game environment like that in this slate too. So I think there might be some trap games, and we might have to talk about it.
Agreed. So my one good is I was, like I just said, I kind of was out of it all week. I didn't get the Ezekiel Elliott chalk. I know why he was chalk. I just didn't want to play him. I faded him everywhere I possibly could. Of course, that worked out. Unfortunately, I'm sitting there looking at two guys that are the same price. I had Rashee Rice and DeAndre Hopkins on my player pool, and I picked DeAndre Hopkins over Rashee Rice, and I paid for that dearly. I actually had it in my cash lineup. I saw that D-Hop had 2 back-to-back games with 12 targets. I figured that would continue. Unfortunately, that did not continue, and Rashee Rice, of course, balled out. So I was very disappointed I did go with Rice instead. All right, get to the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
Tim, I know you mentioned this pre-show, but it's a very weird slate, right? Because we got the 2.
Yeah, there's only 9 games, right? That was in my thread this week. We've had a couple of 10 gamers recently, but this one's only 9, thanks to all the games we have on Friday and Monday. Saturday and Monday.
Yep.
But yeah, I really think that particularly in cash, there's 2 builds this week, and the first one starts with Justin Fields. I think he's absolutely one of the best, if not the best quarterback play on the slate. 7,100 against the Arizona Cardinals. They've given up 3 passing touchdowns in their last 3 games. They also give up a ton of yards on the ground, which we've certainly seen Justin Fields take advantage of that. So at 7,100, I think that's where I'm going in cash, and I'll also have a lot of him in tournaments.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I like Fields a lot as well. I have him he was my first quarterback that I jotted down. It seemed an easy one to click on for sure.
Hey, Jeff.
Go ahead.
My laptop crashed, so give me a second. All my research is right there. And so, don't go to me too. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure we got most of the same quarterback. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, your other elite quarterback was Dak Prescott, which you have him as well, Tim. So why don't you talk about Dak Prescott a little bit?
Yeah, I think Dak's in a good spot to bounce back this week against Miami. Highest total on the slate. This one does not feel like the trap like Buffalo did last week.
Yeah.
The one thing, Dak does not play well in those rainy, cold environments, but he's going to be down in sunny Florida. I haven't looked at the weather forecast, but I feel like everybody says it's 65 everywhere for Christmas this week. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be 75. There you go. Yeah. So Dak will be right at home. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, this is a great bounce back spot. It's going to be the highest total on the slate. And I expect this to be one of the highest, if not the highest stacked game of the day, just because of, there's a lot of really good teams that are not on the slate, right? Like it's 49ers. Yeah. The over under is 50. The next closest one is 47. To me, this seems clearly like the game you want to stack.
Yeah, and I the other side of that game, I know there's some issues with Miami's offensive line, and of course Dallas is one of the best, as far as getting to the quarterback. Yeah, but I took Tua at 7.8 as a pivot. I think he'll be lower owned than some of the other quarterbacks we just mentioned. But Dallas plays a ton of man defense, and Miami offense is one of the best against man. So. You got Tyreek Hill. You're going to be good against man. So I think there can be a potential for some big plays there that, people aren't really counting on. So that's why I got Tua there at 7.8. It's a good tournament play as well.
Oh, I can't wait till Tyreek roast Mr. When Cowboys fan was chanting defensive player of the year. I can't wait till he roasted him for 2 touchdowns this week. I was sick of that crap, man. I hate Cowboys fans saying, "Oh yeah, we got 2 defensive player of the year on our team. Look at that." And wait till we get Travion Day. We're gonna have the best defense of all time. I'm like, shut up, dude.
All right, let's move down into the mid tier here. Gerson, is your laptop back up? You want to kick us off the mid tier?
No, it's still loading. It's been, but just tell me my plays. I'll remember.
Baker Mayfield is the top one there. He's
Baker Mayfield. I mean, last week he kind of just showed out, right? And I think he's going to show out again in this game. I think the environment it's set perfect for him. What's up, Jamie? It's set perfect for him. I think with Mike Evans going to be a huge target for him, and Godwin needs to come around, man. Like, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. I mean, he just like fell off the map this year. But Kate Otton's not a bad target for him. I just think he's just balling out. He's going all out. Finally, my computer's slow. Break. But he finally, like, he knows he's on a contract year. Like, he's probably going to get a 2-year deal, probably like $30 million or something, like those, what do you call it, Geoff? Bridge contract?
Yeah.
Like those bridge contract. But I think I'm going back to the wagon. I mean, it's not expensive either. I think it's 6.2K, is it?
He's 6,000, I think.
6,000? Yeah. So I mean, he's cheap. His stack is cheap. It's not that expensive. And I'm not against doing a Rashad White stack either. He's a pass catching running back, really good at it. And Baker loves to dump the ball off. We all know that. So yeah. And by the way, Alex, you can't tackle Baker Mayfield. Keep dreaming.
Tim, you have the other one that I also like as well.
Yeah, so we get the return of Geno Smith this week against the Tennessee Titans. Vegas apparently did not really care if it was Drew Lock or Geno Smith because the line didn't really move all week. But they are in Tennessee, but they are favored by 3.5. We've seen Tennessee can't play pass defense at all. So I think that obviously heavily favors Geno in this game. So maybe Drew Lock played a little too well last week, and Geno has to go out there and kind of like, keep the fan base off of his back. So that's just the narrative street for you. But I also think it's a really good matchup. And like I said, the total's not bad either.
Yeah. 100%.
I'll tell you what, Geno screwed me in fantasy football. So screw you, Geno.
I love the next guy that Gerson has so much because of the way he put it on the sheet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so Gerson, I don't know if your laptop's up yet. So you have a name on here. And for those that don't know how this works, we have a spreadsheet that we use. We all put our plays in there. And I can see all the plays that they put in there. Gerson put one name super, 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 super tiny that I almost can't read it. Only because of who the quarterback is, and that's Kyler Murray. So Gerson, why do you like Kyler Murray so much?
I mean, I had to do it, dude. Like, I honestly wanted to find a picture. You guys know that picture where he pops up everywhere, like really little at the bottom, and put it in there, but I couldn't do it. I just didn't have enough time. Kyler Murray, I mean, the price is very for a quarterback, Konami quarterback code, or what do you call it? Konami quarterback, whatever. I mean, the rushing upside there. The matchup is not all that great, obviously, but dude, they're gonna have to play catch up. There's no way they're gonna keep up with the other side, and that's the only way. I mean, I like Kyler. His price is just so fitting for what we want to do with all of our roster construction. Obviously, you're not going to stack him. He's probably going to play him naked.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stack him with. It's going to be ugly, but I'd rather not. I'm just going to play him naked. Like I'm. By the way, naked means just the quarterback alone, no stack. By the way, guys, don't get your Christmas stockings in a bunch. But yeah,
so I want to add one thing to that. Is I saw on Twitter today that Call of Duty was having a double EXP weekend, and they decided to end it early. And so I tweeted out that the owner must have Kyler on his fantasy team. So he needed him locked in for this weekend. So big game incoming for Kyler. No Call of Duty.
Good stuff.
Oh man, I got to lock him in on my. Actually, I don't play cash games, so I'm just kidding, guys. Maybe I'll put him on a lot of prize picks slip for sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, we'll move down into the value tier, and I'll talk about another guy that's going to be pretty chalky. Nick Mullins at 5.3 versus Detroit. Of course, Detroit's run defense is one of the best in the league, so it's going to be hard for them to run on them. So I think that they're going to have to go to the pass with the Vikings. Of course, he's got some great weapons with Jordan Addison. Of course, Justin Jefferson's going to be there. T.J. Hawkinson's going to be there. At 5.3, you can cram in a lot of top-tier guys. So I think Nick Mullins is going to be a pretty popular choice there at 5.3. We'll go to you, Tim, and talk about the other guy we have in our value.
Yeah, it's Joe Flacco. Who had ever thought we'd be talking about Joe Flacco in the But here we are. He's been balling over 300 yards in his last couple games, and he's still 5,500. So I mentioned I think there are two ways people are going in cash this week. They're either paying up for Fields or paying down for Flacco. I said I was going the Fields route as of now, but I mean the projections are pretty good for Flacco and for Mullins. If I was playing somebody in a cash game and that's what they had, I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, I mean, Flacco obviously has a huge connection with Cooper, with Njoku. He's proven to be, better than anyone on the Jets and probably several other teams as well. So that's a discussion for a different day. But yeah, I think he's an absolute stud play again this week.
Yeah, I agree. I have Flacco as well. He's in that same price range as Nick Mullins, and he's just been throwing the ball a ton. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the stats on my sheet this week was that since Joe Flacco took over, Cleveland is first in the league in terms of neutral pass rate. Wow. We think of them as this run-heavy team, but since Flacco took over, they just throw and throw and throw.
Throw it everywhere. That's awesome. All right, let's move to the tight end.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, and we'll just kick it off here with the double drop.
Lock it in.
All right, Tim, give us your lock.
So Gerson was talking about running Kyler Murray naked, and I think that's a terrible idea because my favorite play on the slate this week is Trey McBride. And I was looking around, and I see some websites that don't have him as the number one tight end on the slate. And there's another guy I think is debatable, but to me, it's clearly Trey McBride. He's had 9.7 targets in his last 3 games. I mean, average, like that's just insane. For a wide receiver, you'd be paying $7K, maybe $7,500 for that kind of volume, and he's $5,700. So he's going to be super chalky, but he's probably going to be 20%. But I think he's a no-brainer play for me in cash. He is the guy that you play. So yeah, I'm going to be all over Trey McBride this week.
Yeah.
So that's where the fever is talking. Like I totally forgot about McBride, but yeah, that's definitely a great stack with him. But I mean, yeah, I'm sick, guys. Give me a break.
Go ahead and give us one of your elite level tight ends, Gerson.
Well, if I could see my list, but apparently my computer doesn't want to pull up Google Chrome, so I'm gonna have to just name them my place.
Go with Evan Ingram.
Whoa.
You got Evan Ingram and David Njoku as your other two tight ends.
Well, you have David. You just talked about McBride, so I'll talk about David Njoku. I mean, the guy getting peppered with target over and over. Yep. Joe Flacco is going all in on him, and I mean, he's averaging almost 9.5 targets a game in the last 4 to 3 games. Yep. And then also, he's a touchdown red zone machine. Like when they get down to the red zone, they shuck it to him, and Elijah Moore. I don't know what happened to you, dog, but even Joe Flacco can't revive your career either, dude. And you freaking put your neck out for this guy, dude. But I love Njoku. He's killing it. I mean, right now I believe he's top 5 tight end in fantasy football. Yeah. So I'm gonna get him. Evan Ingram is more of like game environment for me. I don't know how much I trust. Like it's just that offensive line is just getting pressured so much that Trevor Lawrence just has to pass the ball right away.
He might not play because of concussion. He might be out.
Oh wow, yeah. So CJ Beathard will get in there, right? So CJ Beathard get in there. Even better. What do we always say about tight ends that quarterback that are kind of like backup and what they go to the hot route, they go to the short route, those short games. So I expect if CJ Beathard in, and he didn't do too bad when he got playing time. No, I think they won He went down and made a drive at the end.
Yeah, I think they lost that game, but they played decently with him in the lineup.
Yeah. So, and we've seen CJ Beathard play before. I mean, he played for the 49ers, right? And he didn't do too bad when he played on the Niners. And I can't remember the other team he played for, but I don't think he's a horrible backup quarterback. But yeah.
The good thing about Beathard is he is a gunslinger. He will just throw it, so that doesn't really affect too much of the skill positions. Now, he might throw a few picks and make some bad decisions, but he will sling it. So. See the other guys that I had in my top tier, TJ Hawkinson, I already kind of mentioned with Nick Mullins. Obviously, we just mentioned, backup quarterbacks love their tight ends, and TJ Hawkinson is probably one of the best tight ends in the NFL versus Detroit at 5.8. I also like.
Plus, you get the revenge narrative.
Yes, you do get the revenge narrative. Absolutely.
Oh my God, dude! Come on, man!
I had to throw it in just for Gerson. Yeah.
Gerson hates,
just because we had Gerson on the show.
yeah, Gerson hates the revenge narrative, especially in football. In
Yeah.
the NBA, it's a little bit more viable, but in football, it's a little bit harder.
Dude, revenge narrative. There's 52 players on the team, dude.
Everyone
love
loves
it,
revenge every week.
Hey guys,
Revenge.
we're gonna do this for this guy only. So let's just get revenge for him.
Yes. I also have Ferguson at Miami 4.9. A good stacking option, a good way to get some cheap exposure to that game as well. We'll move down into the mid tier, Tim, and you have one mid tier guy. So go ahead and talk about him.
I do. It's Cole Kmet. I talked about how much I like Justin Fields this week. I really like him primarily with another guy we'll talk about, but I think you have to have some exposure to Kmet as well. He's been used a lot by Justin Fields, particularly around the red zone. This is real. Last week he had a red zone target. The week before he had 2. So, I mean, we saw that one play, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where he just rolled out and went right to Cole Kmet on a tiptoe catch in the corner of the end zone. So, I mean, they have that connection. That's what you're looking for out of a mid-range tight end. I think we've talked about, I didn't mention this in the top end section, but I think it's a 2 tight end week in cash. I'm probably going to have Njoku and Trey McBride in my cash lineup as of right now. I think their target volume is just too high for their price. But if I do pay down for a guy, it's Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I like Cole Kmet at 4.
Man, I'm letting you know right now, Geoff. That's a lot of bear touting from a Green Bay Packer fan, man. I don't know.
Yeah, you haven't been on the show much this year. He's been touting the Vikings as well a couple of times.
I do. And the Lions too. It's made money for me, so I'm going to keep going back to the well. Just try and take my Packer hat off sometimes.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm a Raiders fan, so I don't rate.
There's nobody there, yeah.
The only other guy I listed in my mid tier besides Cole Kmet was Tucker Kraft at 3.7 at Carolina. I had thought when I saw that Luke Musgrave was prepared to play, I assumed that he was going to play, but it turns out that he's not going to play. So it will be Tucker Kraft again this week as the only tight end. And I do think he has some viability, especially with all the injuries or potential injuries we have with the receiving core there. I think at one point, all 4 of the starters were all listed as questionable. We've gotten a little bit more clarity now as the week has gone on, but I do think he's still viable at 3.7 versus Carolina. All right, let's move down.
Jamie, you need to put that battle down. The Browns aren't making the Super Bowl, bud.
Let's move down into the value tier here, and it looks like Gerson has Tucker Kraft already, so we talked about him. So
yeah, so I mean,
I just put Kate Otten just to have somebody in my value tier. We talked about we like Baker this week. You know, I could see a situation where he goes, 6 for 60 and a touchdown and ends up, tying the highest tight end on the slate, or allows you to get up to the guy Gerson's going to talk about later. So, I mean, I don't love this play. I would not be highly exposed to this play, but I'm probably going to have maybe 10% Kate Otten.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about my value guy, too. I think this is a week where you're at least paying mid-tier or higher for your tight end, but I put Chiga Kwankwo versus Seattle at 3.1. He's been decent. He hasn't been great. He's been at least paying off his low salary at 3.1. So if you need the savings, he's viable. But I think the lowest I'm paying for a tight end is probably 3.7 for Tucker Kraft. I have a lot of Kmet, but I'm probably going to pay up in more than the elite tier this week. So
agreed.
All right, those are the tight ends. Let's get to the running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
And I'm going to do it again. We're going to get the double drop.
Lock it in.
All right, so my lock of the week, I think Gerson mentioned him earlier when he was talking about Baker. Mr. Rachaad White is a pass-catching running back out of the backfield. Now, if you look at DVOA, which I do a lot of times, Jacksonville actually shows pretty well versus DVOA. They're actually ranked, I think, 6th versus the run. However, they give up the most pass attempts to running backs at 8.5 and the 3rd most yards to running backs. So that is a potential for some checkdowns for Rachaad White. So I do like Rachaad White this week at 7.4, which is ironic. I think he's the highest priced running back on the slate.
He is. How weird is that?
Yeah, it goes to show you how many good players or good teams are on other slates. They're not on the main slate. So Rachaad White at 7.4, I think, could catch 6-7 passes this week and easily pay off a 7.4 salary. So yeah, he is my lock of the week. Tim, what do you got for your elite level tier here?
Yeah, I like that White call because I was not real sure about him. My first read on this running back slate is that it's just ugly, right? There's no Christian McCaffrey, right? Kyron Williams played last night. Like a lot of the guys I like to play week in and week out are not on the slate. And then the first guy I put on my list makes me almost want to vomit because he put up less than one DraftKings point last week, and that's Bijan Robinson. Man, this guy has just been getting Arthur Smith all year long, but I feel like this could be the week. He's done much better at home this year. All of his big games have come at home. And we all think, oh, Carolina gives up so many touchdowns to running backs. Well, Indianapolis, the Colts, give up only one less, 20 touchdowns this year to running backs. So we've seen a lot of his production come on the ground, but obviously through those touchdowns, this could be a Bijan week. He's probably one of my favorite running backs this week.
Yeah, and there was a narrative I heard on a podcast. The last time that Arthur Smith has gotten some really strong words in the media about his usage of his star players,
he went back to it the next week.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely something that's a potential for that here. Gerson, is your laptop up yet? Do you know who you have in your
league? Yeah, I'm good. So, I mean, Jonathan Taylor to me is my favorite player this week, running back. I know people might not like him because of the matchup. I'm not too worried. Atlanta ranked ninth in adjusted points, but they're a tough matchup. But the game environment is what I want. And Jonathan Taylor is going to get 15 opportunities, or more. Zach Moss is questionable. I don't know the latest on him, but it's likely if he's out, then they're not going to go to Trey Sermon or what's the other guy named Goodson or something like that.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Jonathan Taylor. I mean, was it his hand, his thumb, what was it? I can't remember. Yeah, his thumb. So I'm not too worried. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be fine. I mean, they wouldn't throw him out there if he wasn't healthy, right? But I give me Jonathan Taylor. The price is just ridiculous. 7,200. Like we talked about the most expensive running back with Rashad White. I mean, seeing Jonathan Taylor that's cheaper than that is even more insane because I think he can get 20 opportunities,
Yeah.
But so I want Jonathan Taylor. He's going to be one of my core plays at the elite running back. But again, Rashad White's a great play. I'm probably going to have a lot of Rashad White. So bad prop too. Well, Geoff only beat me to the cheat. That's why he got him.
So one thing real quick on that Atlanta Falcons defense, and I had talked to Tim about this before too. There was a tweet that I saw that the Falcons since week 10 have a league high as far as run funnel defense. Their league high 55% run rate against them since week 10. So they look good on paper for the year, but they haven't been as good over the past couple of weeks. Now, granted, Tim pointed out that they haven't allowed a lot of touchdowns, which is true. So you have to be careful of that. But teams are running on the Atlanta Falcons of late. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at JT and the usage that he's going to get. If, with Zach Moss potentially being out, that's going to be a big boost to him. So, Tim, I don't know if you put him on your sheet because you wanted to hear the drop with Gerson or not, but let me go ahead and hit that drop.
You know it. Yeah, you know me well. I had to have King Henry on the sheet with Gerson on the show. But the Seahawks, which started off the season pretty good against the run, have become terrible, now averaging more than 4.5 yards per carry, and they've allowed 19 touchdowns, which is tied for third in the league. So we know Derrick Henry is the most game script dependent running back in the NFL. So if the Titans can keep this close, I believe they're running out Ryan Tannehill this week, right? So if they are able to keep it tight, then I think that sets up good for Henry. Some people are saying since the season's over, they're going to play Spears, but I think that, they're going to let him go out on a high note with this team, and they're going to let him have one last D-Hember to remember this weekend. So 6,800.
Yeah, that's
I'm in.
I like that one.
I just made that up on the spot, by the way.
D-Hember
to remember. Yeah.
I like it. All right, I'll kick off the mid-tier here, and I will go with a guy that's honestly on paper, I don't love it. I love his opportunities and his price because we're not getting that free square running back this week that we have in the past couple. So at 5.5, the guy that I call Devin Singletary is viable. I believe he had 31 opportunities last week. At 5.5, if you're getting 31 opportunities, you're going to be viable. I know it's a tough matchup versus Cleveland. But like I said, without that free square running back, I think that he is definitely viable in play at 5.5. So he's my one of my mid-tier guys that I love.
Yeah, we saw last week with Case Keenum, they did not really trust him to throw the ball. It was just giving Devin Singletary as much volume as he could possibly get. And poor Dameon Pierce is now behind Daria Gubawale, who had previously worked as a kicker in relief. So, I mean, that just shows you how bad it is out there for Dameon Pierce, man. So I love that Singletary call. I think he's a good pivot off the guy that I think will be the chalkiest running back on the slate, and that's Ty Chandler. He had 26 touches last week with Madison out. I think last I looked, he was questionable to play, but they've already come out and said, like, they're going to run Ty Chandler. And I think, it's not a great matchup against Detroit, but at 5,600, talking about volume, right now he projects, at least for me, as the highest touch per dollar running back on the slate, which means he'll obviously project very well for cash.
Yep, absolutely. And shout out to NBA Rigged, who just wished us a Merry Christmas. Appreciate that, guy. And thanks for tuning in. Gerson, you got another mid-tier guy that I like as well, Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall is all about opportunities, right? And what's his name? Zach Wilson's out, right? He's not playing.
Yeah,
right?
It's Simeon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Simeon. I don't think they're going to rely on Simeon to close this game out. It's so funny because I saw a graphic that said Washington defense for the shittiest offense. The defense,
Yes.
it's like that's like so sad, dude. Like I'm like when I play Price Pick, I think I'm gonna hit all the unders for one side and all the over for the other side, But Breece Hall to me is his price is just the right range I want him at. I think the ownership right now, I think he's coming in at almost Breece Hall. He's coming in at 29%, so he's going to be the second highest owned running back next to Ty Chandler. I mean, the core running backs are going to be Ty Chandler, Breece Hall, and Rashad White. Those three running backs, a lot of people are going to have. Obviously, what you want to do with your flex, it's on you. But those three guys are going to be probably the most popular ones because you're going to try to fit other players, and we'll talk about the wide receiver position. I mean, there's that Miami game. You want to stack that. But Breece Hall at 6.1K versus Washington, one of the worst defense, if not, it is the worst defense in the league, right? I believe. Obviously, they're ranked 32nd. Yeah. So give me Breece Hall. Right now, I have him actually projected for 18 points. So that's pretty good for 6.1. That's almost 3 times value, basically. So give me Breece Hall. I don't see them relying on Trevor Siemian to carry them, or that they're gonna have to figure out a way to play defense and just run the ball down their throat. And that's what the Jets are kind of made out of. They know what they're dealing with. This is what they have. I mean, Aaron Rodgers over there holding a clipboard for the first time in his life, and he hates it.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I like that. I like that call a lot too. And Tim, you have one more guy, and then the guy that I have left, I want to talk to you about to see what your feelings on him are. I know he's one of your boys, so I want to talk. I added him late to the sheet. Go ahead and talk about Chuba.
So talking about taking my Packer hat off, man, I really like Chuba Hubbard this week, and I think he's a great pivot off Ty Chandler chalk. He is taking over that job in Carolina. And Miles Sanders, and we know the Packers are a run funnel. They've been torn up by every running back they face. They gave up like 36 DraftKings points to Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. The only running back this year to have a bad game against the Packers has been Austin Eckler. So I really like Chuba Hubbard. I know the Panthers are terrible, but they showed last week that they will give him 20-plus touches. And again, he's 5,700. Especially we'll talk about this when we get the wide receivers. The Packers are missing a lot of their wide receivers this week. I think that they're going to really struggle to move the ball, and this game could be kept close, which favors Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, good call.
Dude, I know I have a fever, but you guys just mentioned 2 names, and I'm like getting hotter. You're like Chuba Hubbard and Devin Singletary. Like, dude, I don't know if I can play those guys, man. But
it's an ugly running back. But I agree.
9-game slate's tough. So, Tim, what I wanted to ask you about, of course, is your boy Aaron Jones, who had 17 opportunities last week, 6.7. He gets a matchup with the Carolina Panthers, who we played running backs against them pretty much all season. What are your thoughts on Jones this week?
I really like him. I didn't have him on my sheet because I didn't want to be that, I had to only talk about one Packer this week. But, yeah, I think last week they kind of was his first week back. and they still, gave him, like you said, 16 touches. I think they said that they are full confident that he's 100% or the closest to 100% that he's been, and they're going to give him all the touches he can handle. As I talked about a minute ago, Carolina gives up the most touchdowns to running backs in the league. With all the wide receiver injuries, I expect them to lean heavily on the running game this week. We'll talk about it in a minute, but the defensive coordinator has taken a lot of heat this week, Joe Barry, and I think they're going to play tight defense. Bryce Young has been so bad this year. They're going to play defense and run the ball, and we could realistically see that game, though, being like a 14-17 kind of game. And the only thing that scares me is if he's not getting a ton of receptions, he could end the game with 20 carries for 80 yards and realistically give you an 8.
Yep, 100%. And the reason I like him so much too is he's in that little spot where, if you're paying up, you're paying up with 7.4, Rachaad White, 7.2, Jonathan Taylor, or you're paying that mid tier where you're getting the 5.6, 5.5, 6.1, whereas Aaron Jones is in at 6.7. So he's in that sweet spot where I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned, where people are either going to be paying up or paying down, and they'll skip over him. So you can get him super low owned in tournaments. And if he gets the full workload, I think he can be really good in this game. All right, let's move down into the value tier here, and we all have one of the same guys here. So, Gerson, why don't you give us a little bit about Antonio Gibson?
Yeah, I mean, Brian Robinson's not going to play, right? I'm pretty sure
he's out.
He's out. We basically know when Brian Robinson or anybody doesn't play, the only thing that can stop Antonio Gibson from producing is Antonio Gibson fumbling. So that's the only thing we can ever worry about. We know the talent is there. It's just once he gets the opportunity, he has produced, and they're going to have to the Jets defense is really good. Like, they're going to shut down the wide receivers. So, they're going to rely on Gibson. They're going to do screen passes. They're going to do – obviously, Gibson's not the best runner, but they're going to use them a lot in different ways. I can't see them throwing the ball to Sauce Gardner, with Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dawson's dead to me. So, I'm done with that guy. That guy trash, man. Like,
he's dead to Howell, too, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But his price is just so cheap too, 5.2K. I mean, there's not really like I said, I think we're all gonna live and die in this cheer of what Chandler at 5.6,
Yeah.
But if you need to save $400 for some reason, Gibson's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's gonna get the opportunity. But I'm telling you right now, you can be ready for a 6-point game from him. So it's a straight GPP player. You better watch out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's pretty much the only value guy we had. I did have Charbonnet listed there originally, but it looks like Kenneth Walker's going to play. So I don't like him as much at 5,000. So let's move down to the receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
And I was going to hit the double drop, but Gerson looks like he stepped away for a second. So, Tim, talk about one of your receivers here.
Yeah, Gerson talked about it at the top of the show. The return of Tyreek Hill, I think, is probably the biggest storyline, at least to me, on this slate. Last week, they said he was almost ready to go, but they held him out. Now it's all systems go. So you talked about it. The Cowboys run the most man defense in the league, and they also run the most cover one when they play zone. It's just going to be a Tyreek special. So assuming he is 100%, man, it is. We talked. The other stat I had all year is that he averages 30 points in games against non-division opponents. So he's 9,600. It's obviously expected at that price, but I mean, we'll talk about it. But I don't, week in and week out, it's especially with no Christian McCaffrey on the slate.
Yeah.
Like, who else has that 40-point upside? But I think there's one other guy we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and I'll hit the drop now that Gerson's back.
Lock it in.
All right, Gerson, talk about your boy.
Yeah, fake ass wide receiver 1, Justin Jefferson. He's back. I mean, and he's cheap. He's cheaper than he ever been. The last time he was 8,100 was last year, week 1. So we're getting a $900 discount right here, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, we know we see the plays. Tyreek, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. Those are the 3 guys that can probably break the slate. I don't really see someone that's gonna break like a CMC level type slate breaker besides those three guys. Maybe if that game goes bonker, the quarterback might, whatever. But dude, 8,100 for Justin Jefferson. I mean, the guy, Detroit has been a top 5 schedule adjusted matchup against opposing outside wide receivers since week 10, and the second highest total of the game to the slate. I mean, I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to this game. I think this is the game that people are gonna go to the Miami game. I'm gonna go more to this game, and I know I usually tout this a lot too. I don't like playing rivalry games, like being overexposed because they play each other more than and they know each other more than any other team, right?
Yep.
But if you look at like the matchup, I think it was earlier this year. I know it was earlier this year because I won like $2,000 off it in prize pick. But that game went to a shootout. And I expect a shootout in this game. And playoff implications are very important right now. Detroit is trying to make the playoff, obviously.
Yeah.
Minnesota is trying to make the playoff too. I don't know how they're going to make it, but somehow something's going to happen. Nick Mullen, dude. But Nick Mullen's not scared to launch it, dude. This guy launches it like no other. Like, he has nothing to lose. What is he going to lose? His job? Okay.
Yeah.
But and he throws for a lot of air yards. I believe he had over, I think it was like 54% air yards on the last week for Jefferson. And he's barely getting healthy, guys. Like, it's kind of hard coming back from like 6 weeks he was gone.
And then he came back and got hurt again. And
He got hurt.
And then he went right back, and then he went right back to 10 targets last week.
Yep.
Like, the one thing you can say about Nick
targets.
Mullins is he knows who to throw the ball to, right? He had 10 targets for Justin Jefferson, 7 targets for TJ Hawkinson, 6 targets for Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Brock Purdy, like, poor man's Brock Purdy, right? Like, just get the ball to your playmakers and let them do what they do.
Agreed, 100%. Let's see. Well, I'll go to one of my elite guys here, and this is like a good story. And the reason why I put him on here too is we all saw the hit that Michael Pittman took and expected, the worst with this guy. Not only did he get up and walk off the field after that hit, he is back a week later at 7.4 versus Atlanta. So Pittman has been absolutely smashed all year long.
A monster.
He's been a monster. Yeah. He finally broke out. If you play season long fantasy, this is his breakout season. He's doing it with Minshew at 7.4. I think he's definitely in play at Atlanta this week. So I love me some Pittman.
Yeah, I know nobody cares about season long, but on the one league I'm in the semifinals, I really care about, man. I have Pittman. I've been sweating that all week long. Yeah. And when I saw he was cleared, bro, I was so happy because I was like thinking, do I have to play Zay Flowers against this 49ers on Monday night and worry about? Yeah, that was the other alternative. So I'll talk about the guy that I really like this week, and that's DJ Moore. I've talked how much I like the Bears. Gerson's going to make me turn in my Packer card, but I feel like if you're playing Justin Fields, you're playing DJ Moore, right? If he has a route to a 40-point week, right, he's having 300-plus yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns, and you're hoping that DJ Moore is 100-plus and 2. That's really what you need because we've talked about the upside of Tyreek Hill, the upside of Justin Jefferson. Like if DJ Moore gets you a 22, like that's great in cash, but you're not winning shit with that in tournaments. So you really need one of those high-end weeks this week. But I think he can do it. We've seen him do it. I mean, he had a 50-point game. I know it was against Washington, but I mean, Arizona's like with 31st DVOA, so it's like they might as well. They're like Washington light anyway. Yeah, so 100%. If he gets me a 44.7, I will take it.
100%. All right, I'm just going to mention the last couple of guys we have in the elite level so we can move down to the mid-tier. Mike Evans, 7.6. Tim has him. I think he's viable. Of course, we mentioned Baker Mayfield. CeeDee Lamb and, the highest total on the game on the slate, so I think that he's definitely in play. Amon-Ra St. Brown, can't say anything bad about him either. He's been super solid all year long. So let's move down into the mid-tier, Gerson. Give me one of your mid-tier receivers here.
Hold on, I'm just trying to create an all-bear DraftKings roster for Tim and see what it looks like.
Gerson, that's funny because Gerson has the entire mid-tier on his list.
So my mid-tier, sorry guys. So DK Metcalf, I'm gonna go overexposed on him. He's probably gonna be one of my highest targeted wide receivers for sure. His price is just mid-range, like it's 6.7. But we've seen DK have big game And I think in this game against Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee pass defense is horrendous. I mean, I think they ranked 30th. So I'm gonna, nope, yep. So I'm gonna target DK. I'm hoping Gino plays though. Like I want Gino over.
Gino's playing, yeah.
Okay, I want Gino over Drew Lock because he's gonna get peppered with a lot of targets. His ownership is not even that high either. It's only at 13%. So I expected it to be higher. And for me, I think last week he should have had a bigger game. He just didn't get targeted until like late in the game. I'm like, dude, like, come on, man. But there's no one that's gonna stop him on Tennessee. I'm gonna have exposure to him. I think he's just that mid-tier, kind of like what you did earlier on, Geoff, where Aaron Jones is right there. You know, I mean, DK is right there, and then you can go up to like other guys and like DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, or go down to Calvin Ridley. But I think I'm just going to be overexposed on him. I don't think it might pay off. It might not pay off. But for me, DK is my guy this week. I mean, obviously I didn't pick him as the lock of the week, so I'm a poser.
So I'll go next here, and I'll take and I literally wrote this on the sheet. Insert Green Bay wide receiver. It's basically whoever plays, right? I think Christian Watson is doubtful. I think he's definitely going to be missing the game.
Agreed.
So, I think Dobbs is there. Obviously, Dontavian Wicks is in there. Jaden Reed, we played a couple times this past couple weeks, so I think any of those receivers are going to be viable to play. So if Watson's out, I think all three of the guys are viable. If another guy ends up being out as well, then the two that are left over plus Tucker Crafts will be in the mix as well. So pick a receiver that you like. If it's Jaden Reed, if it's Dobbs, if it's Wicks, whatever the three you want to pick, just pick one and play them. I think they're going to be good this week. Tim, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Drake London this week at 5,100.
Yeah, baby.
He had a tough week last week against Carolina, but we talk about they are a heavy run funnel. And now he gets a matchup against the Indianapolis Colts, which are pretty even middle of the pack against running backs. But his volume for 5,100 is solid. Other than last week, he had 3 targets. Previous to that, 11 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets in 3 weeks before that. So we know Desmond Ridder is out, right? They're going back to Taylor Heineke. Yep. So, we know, like you said, gunslinger, right? He wears 4 for a reason. He likes to throw the ball, and I think he's going to be throwing it a lot to Drake London. And then to go back to your narrative from earlier, every time Arthur Smith gets shit, he goes back to his stars the next week. So, but anyway, I think this is going to be the one thing that surprised me this week is the Falcons had a pretty decent total on a weird slate, right? With only 9 games, they're projected for 23 points, right? So, where's it going to go, right? It's going to go to Bijan, and it's up to actually a 23.75. So it's going to go to Bijan, and it's going to go to Drake London.
Yep.
I feel like all the Colts games recently, like the last 6 weeks or so, have been shootouts. Like last week it was the Bengals, was it?
Yeah.
It was the Bengals, right? And then the week before, I can't remember who it was, but every single time they're in a game, I don't know if it's because Jonathan Taylor's being out, they have to shoot out more because they can't. Well, Zach Moss is running pretty well too. So, I just feel like that defense is vulnerable. So we'll see.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that over the last few weeks, they've been one of the highest teams in the league in terms of points given up over expected by Vegas. So this week, the over-under moved 2.5 points, right? So Vegas is thinking the same thing you are, G, that this game's going to be more of a shootout than was originally prepared.
So in DFS this week, we got a question from NBA Rigged. Do you prefer Bijan or JT in DFS?
I'm going JT.
Yeah, I think it's JT in cash for sure, but I think I like Bijan better in tournaments.
Yeah. Good call.
I just can't trust Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Tough.
I totally get that. There's no debate about JT. He's going to get the work.
All right, I'm going to mention a couple guys that we have in the mid-tier that we didn't talk about yet. DeAndre Hopkins, both me and Kirsten have D-Hop at 6.1. Tyler Lockett at 5.6. We actually with
cover boy.
Yeah, he's the cover boy. He's the week 16 cover boy at 5.6. You have Garrett Wilson as well, Gerson. And then Calvin Ridley. Do you have Calvin Ridley? Do you like him as much with Beathard under center? Or
no, I should have crossed that off as soon as I saw Pretty boy
Ridley as well. That's why Beathard. I was like, I'm not on Ridley anymore.
He is 6.3K, so he's not that expensive. So you can probably just play him. But Like I said, that game environment very interesting. I think it can be a game that can probably shoots out. I mean, we've seen CJ Beathard just freaking chuck the ball too. He's like Nick Mullen. They're just gonna chuck the ball.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's move down into the value tier. And Gerson, you only have one receiver listed in your value tier, so go ahead and talk about him.
Yeah, it's Michael Wilson. I mean, not a lot of people even know who he is, I guess, right? Unless you played Dynasty or unless you played him in DFS when he became a value. But we got the news that Marquise Brown is out. So, I mean, Michael Wilson, his price is cheap. He's 3.7K. I believe it's 3.8. What is it? 3.7K. Facing Chicago. Chicago's defense is pretty stout. In the last, I believe, since they got Montez Sweat, they've been dominant. Like, they've just been wailing on people. But I think Michael Wilson's going to get peppered with target. A little short midget guy is going to be running. Oop, I don't know if I can say that out on YouTube. A little short.
It's late. Yeah. No one's watching.
Yeah. He's going to be there somewhere, and he's going to just throw the ball to Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson actually has, he's not small. He's a pretty thick boy. He's like 220, I think, 230. I mean, he's a big target. I mean, Kyler loves throwing to bigger targets, I bet. I mean, everything's bigger for him, but just 3.7K, very cheap. I'll say this. There was other value at wide receiver that I saw, but there's a lot of them that I just can see that are landmine.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one I can say that I love other than Michael Wilson is JSN, but he's 4.5K.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Tim, I agree with that. Talk about one.
Yeah. I do. The one thing you talked about Packers wide receivers is you didn't touch on is Malik Heath. If all those guys are out, I think he's viable at 3.2. He was going to be my sit call, but then I thought that, Packers wide receiver is just like a fill-in because we have no idea who's going to play.
Right.
I've mentioned every other Bear, so I might as well throw out Darnell Mooney. But the reason I want to mention it more than anything is because of the fail Mary from last week. That was probably my favorite clip last week. The ball literally hit him in the chest in the end zone, and he dropped it. Like I wouldn't have slept that night or for like 3 nights afterwards. They had no business winning that game, and they almost won that game. So, I don't know. I agree with Gerson, though. I think the low end on this slate is terrible for wide receiver. I'm a big fan of the balanced lineups this week in general, right? Like you're gonna have to pay up for like your Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb and some of those guys in tournaments, but my favorite builds this week have all been like in the 5 to 7,500 range.
Balance.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey Tim, I'm just filling out my roster, but you're obviously playing a Bears defense, right? I mean, I'm just jumping forward. I want to put like submit already.
It's not my cash defense. Well, I do have it in tournaments.
Yeah, he's listed on there. All right, so I will talk about JSN a little bit. He was the last week with the game-winning touchdown. But if you look at the last game he played with Geno Smith, he had 11 targets. So I think that with Geno back, I think JSN gets more targets at 4.5. He's definitely in play for me. I too had Michael Wilson. I also put Parker Washington on there. He was kind of a hero of a couple weeks ago. Last week didn't do a whole lot, but he did have 6 targets still. He didn't do a whole.
I called him. You're not gonna give me credit.
You got credit. Yeah, you're on there. You just were on the show the next week, but yeah, you did call it. You got Parker Washington. But yeah, at 3.8, I think he's in a price range where you can pay for him if you want to as well. All right.
I will say this, Geoff. Since we're now in week 16, looking at the sheet, the guests have done much better at sit calls than we have.
Yeah, they definitely have.
It's not even close. It's like 2-1 advantage.
Yeah.
It's bad.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the defense.
Defense.
All right, Tim, kick us off here.
I'm not going to talk about the Bears for once. I'm going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To me, this one basically became a free square at defense when they said, Trevor Lawrence. I know he's questionable, but nobody's cleared concussion protocol in a week except for apparently Michael Pittman, but no quarterbacks have done it anyway. Yeah. We're all expecting CJ Beathard to start this game, and even though he is a gunslinger, that also means he's going to make some mistakes. And at 2,600, they're just too good of a value to pass up. We talked about a lot of guys you want to pay up for. Generally we pay down at defense. especially for teams that can get pressure on the quarterback, which we know the Buccaneers can. So I think they're just, they're too good of a play in cash to pass up.
Yeah, agreed. I will throw one out there that that I looked at is getting some ownership, and I think it's kind of a pivot off of that because it's another cheap defense, and that's the Miami Dolphins. With playing Dak Prescott, and he didn't look good on the road last week against Buffalo. I know it was bad weather, and we expected to be warm and sunny in Miami, but I wouldn't put it past him at 2.7. I think there's still a chance that Dak goes out there and can struggle a little bit. So. The Dolphins, I'll throw them out there as a pivot in some tournaments if you don't want to play the chalk Buccaneers at 2.6. So $100 more, you can get the Dolphins. Gerson, what you got for your defense?
So obviously we know the chalk defense is going to be the Jets defense and the Bears defense. But I think the defense I really want to, because I always try to save at defense, right? You guys know me. I don't really pay up for defense. I just kind of go with the value and then fill out my rosters at tight end values and defense value, and then I fill in my roster. But one defense that really stood out for me, and Tim mentioned them early on, the Panthers defense, I think while everybody's going to be playing, they're the cheapest, obviously, 2.4K, but we've seen Jordan Love be erratic at times. He fumbled the ball, throws an interception, and this is to me, more of a price pivot, If I want to save an extra, what are the Jets, like 3,100? Yeah. That's $700 difference, the defense that Tim called out, though, it's not that much expensive than what they are right now for them. So, but I'm going with the Panthers defense more for ownership and price. But Panthers defense, but the other one was also the Vikings defense. I think Vikings defense is very underrated this year. A lot of people, they know they're good, but they just overlook them, Yep. And I think Goff on the road. This is on the road, right? I'm pretty sure it is.
It is on the road.
On the road. We know Goff is bad on the road. Obviously, he does have an advantage with indoor. So, but the thing is that Vikings defense at home against Goff on the road, I can see a couple of interceptions. What's up?
I said I will point out too that I heard this stat on a podcast, and I meant to mention it when we talked about quarterbacks because we didn't talk about Jared Goff. So the Vikings run a lot of cover 2, and they blitz more than any other team in the NFL. And teams that play cover 2, Jared Goff is ranked 34th out of 35 eligible quarterbacks against cover 2. So that is something you need to look at there with the Vikings defense for sure. And the reason why I'm not playing Goff, I know people think, oh, he's in the dome, he'll play well. The Vikings, because they blitz so much and play cover 2, I'm actually not in on Goff, but the Vikings defense is a good call. I like it.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention about the Panthers defense, which I like that call, I talked about how I think Jordan Love could struggle this week, is I'm building a lot of lineups where I'm like $100 over every time when using the Bucks. And I feel like rather than messing with the rest of the lineup, just pivoting down to Panthers just makes so much sense. So I really like that call.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
So my original stack, and Tim always gets to the sheet before me, was the stack that Tim has. So I'll let you go first here, Tim. And of course, if you didn't already know what his stack was, you haven't been watching the show.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you been paying attention? Tim is taking off his Packer hat this week and playing all the Bears. Justin Fields, DJ Moore for sure, running it back with Trey McBride. And then I'll mix in some Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. Definitely. I like that. I like that stack as well. That was where I was going to go with until I saw you already had it. Gerson,
I can just imagine Green Bay Packer fan doing that whole meme to them like, boo this man, boo.
Yeah, we're gonna see a little Bears logo in the background next week.
Yeah. My stack. We talked about this game a lot today, and obviously my lock of the week with Justin Jefferson. I'm gonna go with a cheaper stack for like quarterback, right? Moen, Addison, Jefferson, and ASB. But to me, I just want to target his game environment. I think it can shoot out a little bit. I don't like the Goff side as much, like Jared Goff. But I think he's going to have to play catch-up. And we've seen, the Lions' offense, they're very versatile. Like, they can run the ball very well. Obviously, they can pass the ball very well. but it's all dependent on Goff, how he plays, But the running game will get the ball moving. I'm just hoping for it to shoot out like it did last time. And last time, I mean, Kirk Cousins was there, and obviously he's not there now. But Mullins, he's not afraid to sling it.
Yep.
This is the second best game environment. I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to it. But I will mention a guy probably later that you can rotate with ASB. I'm on St. Brown, but you got to have balls to play him sometime.
Yeah, I like him as well, with the guy you're talking about. So we'll get to him in just a minute. So my stack is a little bit untraditional. Typically we go quarterback, pick a receiver, 2 receivers, and get a comeback. I'm going to go with a running back defense stack. I'm going with Rachaad White, who's my lock of the week, and then using the Bucs defense as the the chalk defense. It's going to be a pretty chalky stack. I think it'll be pretty popular. But as far as stacks go this week, I had a hard time finding one that I like, so I went with the running back defensive stack this week. All right, let's get to our sick calls.
And now, the sick call of the week.
So Gerson, since you are the one that basically started the sick call, and the last time you were on the show, you were sick and you picked a sick call, and you're sick again. So I guess we're gonna have you on whenever you're sick. So give us your sick call of the week.
So, like I said, I'm targeting that Vikings game. I was kind of shocked to see the price of Jameson Williams at 3,700. Man, I thought he was at least going to be like 4,500, 5,000. Well, I mean, not 5,000, maybe 4,500.
Career high, everything last week. I think target, receptions, everything.
And we know the talent he has. He's just a knucklehead. Like when he's out there, he kind of reminds me of George Pickens. Him and George Pickens are like lazy. Like Jameson has all the talent in the world, but I just don't know what's going on. Like he can't put it all together. But I think little by little, he's starting to put it together. 3.7K. If you switch him out for ASB, which is Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously that stack is cheaper, and it'll allow you to pay up in other places. But again, Jameson Williams is one of those guys that can go 1 reception, 7 yards.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I will say on Jameson Williams in the narrative that he's, like George Pickens, in that last game, you saw a little bit more of improvement. That long run, I want to say it was Montgomery that had that really long run. Jameson Williams was all the way down the field blocking for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally 30, 40, 50 yards downfield blocking, and he actually took out one of the guys to allow him to get into the end zone. So
and he's so fast too. Like he's so fast. Like he has all the talent. Like we saw it at Alabama, and now like we see it on the Lions. We're like, dude, they invested in you, and now you're doing this.
Yeah, I think there was an interview with Dave Montgomery, and he was like, I was running my ass off, and I got pissed. I look over at Jameson Williams, he's just jogging. All right, Tim, what you got for your sick call?
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that is even though he didn't get any rushes last week, they're also giving him some end arounds and sweeps and things like that, trying to find ways to get the ball into his hand. So I like that. So what do you say every week, Geoff, about your sick calls, right? You want a guy who can score a touchdown in one long play and pay off his salary. And this guy did it last week, and I'm going to call it he's going to do it again. And that's Jamal Agnew at 3,400. We talked about C.J. Beathard going to play, expected to throw the ball a lot. Everybody's going to go Calvin Ridley or Evan Ingram. But if you want to go one of the cheapest options on the slate is Jamal Agnew. So I didn't talk about this in my stack because it was my sick call. But Baker and Mike Evans and bringing it back with Jamal Agnew. Nobody will have that stack. So you can basically put all the rest of the chalk in there, Rachaad White and DJ Moore or whatever. And
all the Bears players. The rest of them are still not.
Exactly.
Yeah, good stuff. I like that call. So I put down 2 names because one of them is questionable. So if Treylon Burks is healthy at 3.1, I like Treylon Burks because I think Nick Westbrook-Ikini is out.
Yes, he is.
So I think Burks would step into that number 2 role. However, if Burks is also out, which he's questionable right now, Chris Moore kind of showed out a little bit last week, and I think he will be the number 2. He's 3.3, so he's also pretty cheap. But he actually had an amazing catch. I don't know if y'all saw it live, but I mean, he had a catch that I was like, "Who the hell was that?" I could have swore it was D-Hop because the way he caught it. So Chris Moore was.
Burks did get a full practice in today, so I think he's going to play.
So I think, if Burks plays, Burks is the one I like. I think he's the better talent, and he's also a little bit cheaper. If for some reason he's out, then go Chris Moore. So those are my sick calls.
Is this like a revenge from the last time that I had 2 sick calls? Is this what you're trying to do to me right now?
It's gonna take 2 guys. It's not taking 2 guys. It's a caveat. It's one or the other, depending on if Burks is going to play or not. All right, fellas, that wraps up the show. I do want to say to the listeners that are still here with us, we're going to have one more show next week. We take off week 18 because it's so many people that are going to be resting and everything else. So we're not going to have a show week 18, but then we'll be back for the first week of the playoffs.
Wild card weekend.
And we'll do that whole slate. I think there's games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, so we'll cover the whole entire slate. And that'll be our last show of the year, unfortunately. But we will definitely be here next week, and in 3 weeks from now, we'll be there for the wild card weekend as well. Garson, I want to thank you once again for coming on. I know it was the last week.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a 2-man show. It was going to be a 2-man show with me and Tim, but Gerson came through, even being sick and showed up, man. So I appreciate it. So quickly,
no problem, man.
Plug your Twitter handle and anything else you want to plug.
Yeah, you can find me at Fantasy DFS. You can find me on the DFS Roundtable, Facebook. But I want to thank you guys for holding it down this year. I know I didn't come on the whole season. I really do hope that next year is a lot better, and I just come back full time and be back with the gang. This year was just hectic at work, and trust me, it hurt me every Friday seeing you guys bring in these guys. I'm like, that guy Jared, trash. That guy Garrett, man, that's a sexy ass voice. But all right, I'll accept it. But no, I appreciate it. You guys holding it down. I miss you guys. You guys know that. I tell you guys all the time. But Merry Christmas to everybody and a Happy New Year, guys. Please don't drive drunk. Get an Uber, get a Lyft, get your parents, get your mom, your dad. Walk.
There you go.
Obviously, don't public intoxicate. But yeah.
Absolutely. Tim, what you got?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Keto DFS, in Facebook at the DFS Roundtable, where I do my thread every week. And like you said, most importantly, Merry Christmas to everybody who's tuned in with us all year long. We appreciate it more than you know. And hop in and join us again. We say 2 weeks.
Absolutely. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert77. I mentioned the show will be ending in a couple of weeks. And then me and Ryan's show, if you watch our season-long show, we're going obviously full dynasty, flip it over to all the rookies we're going to talk about. And, of course, I'll plug it now, but in April we do our annual draft show, which I know Tim is always so hyped for. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. Got some good things planned in the 2024 for 2.
I'm not hyped for it.
Yeah. Tim
I do. I live for the draft show, though. Yeah. I do. No, just so you guys know, okay? Now that we're at the end of the show and most people aren't still listening, part of the reason I'm cheering for all the Bears is so that they somehow convince themselves that Justin Fields is their quarterback and decide not to take Caleb Williams, because that's how the Packers stay relevant, right? If the Bears ever actually get a quarterback, then it's over.
Yeah, that's true.
Let them give Justin Fields $40 million, please.
If they don't get Caleb Williams, you're gonna have a wide receiver named Marvin Harrison Jr. wrecking you guys every week.
Yeah,
I will trust the Bears to mess that up somehow.
Somehow we will. All right, fellas.
We'll find a way.
Appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all next week.